I used to work in that building over there. I confess that I'm a reformed diplomat. I am not a Fruit Loop, as the media tend to call people like us. What I want to focus on today is two things which are related: the China dimension and the green dimension. Now, our speakers today have actually been very complimentary in the sense that they haven't repeated each other. So I'm not going to repeat all the very good points that they have made about Russia. But I'm going to recall this anniversary of an event that happened in what they called then the Pacific Theater, Japan. It happened in the Pacific region, which of course brings to mind China. Now, Japan didn't bomb Pearl Harbor just on a whim, because it seemed a good idea on the day. Not many people remember, if they ever knew, that Japan was subject to a blockade by the United States and the UK. And this is the primary reason why Japan felt it necessary, rightly or wrongly, to try to knock America out of the conflict. Japan was very dependent on oil imports. Now, this is exactly the position that China may find itself in. The way the West is threatening China, alleging aggression on the part of China, this is a case of Freudian projection. All the aggression is coming from the West. The attempted encirclement is not by China, obviously. Look at the map. It's by NATO. This is the thing to worry about, particularly if the Ukraine conflict ends badly with a defeat for Russia. This will only embolden NATO to turn its gaze eastwards and go for the big prize. At the end of the day, Russia is not an existential threat to America, but America does see China as an existential economic and eventually military threat. So this is the thing we have to keep our mind on. That NATO must be thwarted in Ukraine, otherwise worse will follow with China. Now, I mentioned that Japan was dependent on oil imports, and so is China. This is a major reason why China is building more and more coal fuel power stations. One a month, I understand. And this is causing tension with the West, which is hell-bent on deindustrializing itself with all the green stuff that we know about. And this is emerging as a new bone of contention with China. China's refusal to kowtow to Western diktats about 2050. Now, China doesn't try to contradict this ideology head on, and China is building up its renewables at a very fast rate. China needs to become more self-dependent because it's terrified of ending up in the position that Japan was in 1940. So they want more coal and they want more renewables. And they're not going to have any nonsense about downscaling after 2050. That's an illusion on the part of the green movement. I come now to the Greens. These are the spiritual descendants of the peacemakers, the anti-Vietnam people of the 1970s. This is what they have become. In the old days, Greenpeace did what it said on the tin. It was green, but it was also in favor of peace. They've forgotten the peace half of their name. They focus exclusively now on the green. Which brings me to our friend over there, Mr. Sunak, whose house in Richmond, Yorkshire, was attacked by Greenpeace. Now, if No to NATO had pulled off a stunt like that, I am quite sure that the leaders of No to NATO, including Chris and possibly myself, would be hauled in by the police quicker than you can say Greta Thunberg. But the leaders of Greenpeace seem to be given a pass by our establishment, who don't know whether they're coming or going on the green issue. Now you see that, this reminds me of another incident in the Pacific. In 1985, Greenpeace, which really was pro-peace in those days and concerned about nuclear, Greenpeace had a ship, Rainbow Warrior, which was planning to disrupt a French atomic test in the Pacific in 1985, and the French Secret Service sabotaged that ship, sank it, and killed a poor guy in the process. In those days, Greenpeace was an authentic peace movement. But now, the Greens have become big supporters of NATO. A year ago, Greta Thunberg spoke against Sweden's entering NATO. She's gone silent now, it's actually happened. And NATO are among the biggest supporters of greenery. NATO is a frequent attendee at all their big conferences, their COP, whatever they call it. Greenwashing. The Pentagon, NATO, British military industrial complex, they are the biggest polluters on God's earth. They are the biggest polluters, but they get a pass from the Greens. In Germany, the Greens are the most rabidly Russophobic party in Germany. The Greens and NATO are on a convergent, militaristic, aggressive course, which could end up with conflict with China. Now, one good thing has come out of the Ukraine conflict, two good things. The first is that Russia and China have been forced to come together. The leaders of China must be terrified that the Western wet dream of Putin being overthrown comes true, because they would be next in line. And for this reason, China is cooperating with Russia, encouraging North Korea to cooperate with Russia. In years gone by, this was NATO's nightmare, that Russia and China would come together. Well, those geniuses across the road, Foreign Office, Number 10, the Pentagon, the White House, those geniuses have brought their own nightmare about. China and Russia are close together. And thank goodness for humanity for that. And the second good thing to come out of it is that the Ukraine conflict has catalyzed a realization on the part of what used to be called the Third World, and now we call the Global South. The Global South, which includes now Russia and China, the non-West, has become more active more conscious of its own power, more willing to de-dollarize and take other steps to reduce dependence on the NATO powers, the old colonial powers, who thought they were the masters of the universe. They thought they'd brought about the end of history. Well, they may have brought about the end of history, but they can't bring about the end of geography. America is oceans away, and therefore the global south, its day is coming. So thank you, NATO, for all that. And thank you, Extinction Rebellion, for reminding us extinction. The old green movement back in 1985 was worried about authentic nuclear extinction. Now they worry about a fantasy climate extinction. Final point, a case of stolen identity. The British Labour Party used to be a peace party. What happened to that? I'm ex-Labour. I feel I've had my identity stolen, but I have found a new home in the Workers' Party of Britain. If you, like me, support Labour, fair rights for Labour, if you support applying the brakes to this mad rush to net zero, and if you support peace, do join me in the Workers' Party of Britain. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said.